If you love movies and movie discussions, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am the Wiz, and I'm here today to review the 1983 teen sex comedy Risky Business, starring Tom Cruise, Rebecca De Mornay, and Joe Pantoliano, directed by Paul Brickman. We're ending this week of erotic films with a film that honestly probably shouldn't have been in this list at all. I don't know, I saw this on a website that said this is one of the best erotic films, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize. I'll watch this. And I guess their definition of erotic is different than mine, I guess. Let's get into the plot. Risky Business is about Joel, who's played by Tom Cruise, whose parents are going away on vacation and leaving him to the house alone. He ends up being roped in with a prostitute named Lana, who is played by Rebecca De Mornay. And as the time goes on when his parents are on vacation, things just start getting more and more out of control for Joel as the movie moves forward. If I'm being honest, this is a fairly standard teen sex comedy. And what I mean by standard is basically, if you've seen films like Van Wilder, if you've seen films like American Pie, you probably know what's going to happen as the film goes on. It goes a little bit crazier and crazier as the time goes on, but then it ends on a happy note, pretty much, as the film goes on. The only difference with this film is that it is not nearly as raunchy as the 90s and 2000s teen sex comedies. But what really makes Risky Business stand out from, let's say, those other movies that I just mentioned are the things that really differentiate itself. And I think one of the big things that differentiates itself from, let's say, those teen comedies is its soundtrack, and that's from the soundtrack with Tangerine Dream, and it's a great soundtrack. I am not a techno or new age or electronic music listener, but even I had to admit, with the way the film is shot and how the music is, it fits really well, especially in like the dream sequences or in the crazier sequences as the film goes on. I think this is a very good soundtrack, and it's something that I'm kind of debating on whether I want to purchase online. I'm surprised. It's actually, again, a very good soundtrack. It sounds really good with the rest of the film. It has that punchy feel that it fits well with the dark-ish tone that the film has. And now, there are other things in this movie as well. I mentioned that Joe Pantoliano is in this. This is, of course, a Tom Cruise movie. But I will also say I think the best performance of the film is actually Rebecca De Mornay as Lana in this movie. Tom Cruise's character is kind of boring, but it's kind of by design. Pantoliano plays a pimp who is, not very nice, as pimps as you would do in that sense. But I really liked Lana in this film. I like how De Mornay plays her. It's that dichotomy of an innocent girl next door looking face with this business savvy, streetwise person, kind of like a hustler of sorts, that I think fits really well. And I think De Mornay really owned that character, and I thought was really good as that character as well. So I really liked her performance, and I really think that De Mornay is probably the most entertaining part of this movie, just to see where the film will go and what she does throughout the film. She's kind of the wild card in this movie, so you don't exactly know what direction she's going to go in until, I would say, the third act, and you kind of guess it at a certain point. That all being said, the honest truth of this movie is, and I'm going to borrow a quote from the movie, it's a movie that relies on you to just say, what the fuck, when it gets to its darker elements. If you've been paying attention to what the plot's about, Lana's a prostitute, and a very young prostitute at that, but Joel's also only 17 years old, so if you're really paying attention to what's going on in the movie and how the film goes on, there are some things that are going to pop into your head going, wait, whoa, what the fuck is going on? Hold on a second. But if you stick with what the film is saying to you, which is basically saying, what the fuck, whatever, who cares? Let's just go crazy here. Then if you can give in to that, it is an enjoyable film. I'm usually not like that. I usually look at the film, the themes, and go, whoa, hold up. Hold on a second now. But I've got to admit, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It shouldn't be really taken seriously. It's funny because the darker elements are there, and yet the film just keeps it light in a weird way. It actually works with how light the film is at times, even though it deals with prostitution, it deals with pimps, and it deals with even darker tones of anxiety and performance-based anxiety when it comes to your future. It has some deeper themes in there, but the film kind of shoots itself in the foot by being a much more meaningful film like that by just saying, who the fuck cares? But that might be okay to you, because if you just want to have fun, this is a fun movie. So yeah, if you are looking to have fun despite its darker elements, you might be able to just by the way that the film treats everything. Okay, so let's get to the footnotes for Risky Business. My first footnote is, I guess a number of movies ripped this off. That was the thing that I was kind of surprised by. I was kind of stunned by how a lot of movies have either cribbed elements of this movie or plain ripped it off. First movie it reminded me of is Ferris Bueller's Day Off from 3 years later. Now, Ferris Bueller's Day Off is a lot less darker. It's a lot more of a fun, kind of light movie. There's no prostitute, well, not that I remember at least, but there's no prostitutes, there's no kind of like darker elements into the film. But the mentality of the main character who wants to just go wild before he has to grow up and be an adult and go to college is definitely in there, and they share a lot of different elements, borrowing the father's car, getting it destroyed, things like that. So those elements are there. But I think what I'm really surprised by is that there was a film in the 2000s called The Girl Next Door. It had Elijah Cuthbert, Emile Hirsch, and I believe Paul Dano is in the movie as well. I think that movie is a direct ripoff of Risky Business. And I mean direct. They change one or two elements. Like, for example, the female character is not a prostitute. She's a porn star. And the main characters, instead of opening a bordello, they do a porn movie of sorts. With everything else, it's kind of a direct ripoff in a lot of ways. So I was kind of surprised by that. And my mentality afterwards is like, I guess the one take I can give is that Risky Business was such a important movie for this genre, the teen sex dramas, or teen sex comedies, I should say, that a lot of different movies just cribbed off this. And yeah, okay, I can get that, but I was actually a little surprised by how liberally these movies actually did this. Like, if you watch this movie and then you look back at even, like, let's say Road Trip, all the American Pie movies, there are others I'm not even thinking about, because like I haven't seen them in a long time, but you'll notice that this movie probably started that entire genre off. I think Porky's is really the first one that did it, but Porky's, I've heard, I haven't seen it, but I've heard Porky's is so out there that to constantly do those themes would be really hard. Whereas I think with Risky Business, there's more acceptable, in quotations, things in here that can be cribbed very liberally. So I think Risky Business is probably important for that genre. And my second footnote, Brosnan Pinchot doesn't always sound like Cousin Balky. Everything I knew was a lie. Everything I knew was a lie. Alright, so overall, I am going to recommend Risky Business, but I'm also going to say this. For a film that is considered an all-time classic, I'm kind of surprised by how pedestrian it is. I guess it's a film like Animal House that we reviewed last year, where this is where it started everything off. This movie started this type of movie to be constantly reiterated. For that point, I can see that. But take that away, and it's an okay movie. It's an enjoyable movie from when I was watching it. I'll put it this way. This is going to the Criterion Collection this month, and I'm a little surprised by that because I don't get the significance artistically about it. But then again, artistic merit is not the only reason why the Criterion Collection puts movies in its collection. I guess I'll throw that out there as well. It's fine. It's a fun movie. I find it enjoyable. I think it's going to be very forgettable as time goes on. I'm not really a big fan of these movies anymore. I would guess if I saw this when I was a teenager, I think I would like it more. But since I saw it when I was 40, I guess it doesn't really work very well. I will say that I really like Rebecca De Mornay in this movie. I think she's very good in it. And the soundtrack by Tangerine Dream is also really good. I'm still considering if I'm going to buy that soundtrack or not. But overall, I'm going to recommend Risky Business. It's a fine enough movie. It's just not exactly the classic that I keep hearing it is. Overall, it's still enjoyable.
Now, if you want my full review on this movie, you can go to my website at IamTheWiz.com. You'll have my full written review right on the site, along with a link to the video that has this review that you've just listened to. Thank you for listening to this review. If you want to know what we're reviewing in the next couple of days, you can look on the screen right now to see what's coming up next. If you like what you heard, go ahead and leave a like on this video. If you want to discuss your opinion on the film or the review itself, please leave a comment. And if you want to hear more, subscribe to the channel. Thank you again for listening. I will talk to you next time.